I saw a beautiful girl the color of ivory pleading in a voice like my mother's as she stood before a group of slave owners who bid for her naked body. This quote uses sex as a symbol for power. The girl is powerless as she stands before the slave owners naked. The white slave owners are shown in this powerful position to represent the current unequal power position of the white and black citizens throughout the book. The narrator at this point is controlled by the white people, and his identity is determined by them. Later in the book, the narrator looks back at this and realizes that he can control his own identity.
I must confess that you also make me afraid. Afraid? You can't mean that, I said. Really, she repeated as I laughed. It's so powerful, so primitive. In this scene, the woman is telling the narrator how much she admires him in his work for the Brotherhood. She seems interested in him, but she actually just wants to fulfill the stereotypical fantasy she has in her head. This affects the narrator by making him realize that this racial stereotype of black men being sexually aggressive is invalid. This affects his sense of identity because he is realizing that racial stereotypes are not always true and don't define who a person is.
Come on, beat me, Daddy, you big black bruiser. What's taking you so long? She said. Hurry up, knock me down. Don't you want me?
This quote shows how a woman wants to fulfill a fantasy with the stereotypical black man. She wants him to be the violent, savage man she has imagined in her head, when really that is not how the narrator is at all.
One night, I accidentally bumped into a man, and perhaps because of the near darkness, he saw me and called me an insulting name. I sprang at him, seized his coat lapels, and demanded that he apologize.
In this quote, the motif of violence is used to show that the narrator has been pushed to his breaking point due to all the discrimination he has faced throughout his life, and that even a rude comment will push him to violence. Although this is in the prologue, reflecting back on this scene, it is clear that the violence, such as Clifton's death, have been embedded into the narrator's identity, and that this causes him to lash out.
Some were still crying and in hysteria, but as we tried to leave, we were stopped and ordered to get into the ring. There was nothing to do but what we were told. All 10 of us climbed under the ropes and allowed ourselves to be blindfolded with broad bands of white cloth. One of the men seemed to feel a bit sympathetic and tried to cheer us up as we stood with our backs against the ropes. Some of us tried to grin. "See that boy over there?" one of the men said. "I want you to run across at the belt and give it to him right in the belly. If you don't get him, I'm going to get you. I don't like his looks." This is an example of violence from Chapter 1 of Invisible Man. The young boys are at a bar and being tortured by the drunk men. They are being forced to fight each other as a form of entertainment for the men. This affects the narrator as he is a young boy when this happens, and it shapes his opinion of white men and how they are superior to him.
I heard rapid explosions and saw each pigeon diving wildly as though blackjack by the sound, and the cop sitting up straight now and rising to his knees, looking steadily at Clifton, and the pigeons plummeting swiftly into the trees, and Clifton still facing the cop and suddenly crumpling. In this passage, Clifton gets in a fight with the cop and is eventually shot by the cop for causing a big scene by selling Sambo dolls on the street. The narrator is very saddened by Clifton's death because he had a lot of respect for what Clifton was doing within the Brotherhood. The death of Clifton also angers the narrator. The narrator believes that what cost Clifton his life was his skin color, not the fact that he was selling Sambo dolls. The narrator argues that if Clifton were a white man, he would not have been shot. This causes the narrator to organize a large march and funeral in honor of Clifton, and eventually this sparks more violence because riots break out in Harlem over this. Throughout the novel, the motif of violence occurs because of the discrimination and prejudice that blacks faced.
Up the street, there sounded the crashing of huge sheets of glass, and through the blue mysteriousness of the dark, the walks shimmered like shattered mirrors. All the street signs were dead, all the day sounds had lost their stable meaning. Somewhere a burglar alarm went off, a meaningless blinging of sound, followed by the joyful shouts of looters. This is an example of violence from Chapter 25 of Invisible Man, in which Harlem is in the midst of being torn apart. The narrator is deeply saddened by all of the horrific events that have occurred at the riot and begins muttering to himself that he will make the Brotherhood pay for all of the death and destruction that they had caused. He falls into a manhole and passes out. When he wakes up, he realizes that he cannot go back to Mary's house or anyone else's.
He understands that things are different now and he needs a plan.